It's one huge paragraph. And the writer says, I focus as much as possible on a seemingly simple and mundane action and wrote a short story off of it. Thoughts? That sounds interesting. Obviously, some sort of paragraphs would need to happen for it to be a final thing, but let's have a look. She outstretched her hand and closed it around the doorknob. Instantly, she could feel the exchange of its coolness with the heat of her hand, the many dimples and undulations around its perimeter like mountains of frost against her skin. Okay. Yeah, I think. She began to turn the knob then. It was an old thing from the bygone age of coal and brass. It didn't budge at first, the force of her hand merely stretching the skin with which it grasped. And then, in a cacophony of rusty scraping and grinding mechanisms, the doorknob made its journey around its axis and arrived reluctantly at its new position with a dull thunk from within the door. She felt something click from the inside. She pushed then. The door, though weighty and magnificent, took no more than a finger's touch to begin moving, its well-oiled hinges gliding in contempt of the doorknob that she grasped before. It was tightly in her fingers now, despite the mechanism that had been deemed fit to recover from countless rotations, having eroded many decades prior. The door sped up now. The mighty slab pushed the air into a breeze that picked at strands of her hair as the door swung past her feet, gliding towards the awaiting doorway. She reversed the direction of her efforts then. Push became pull, and the doorknob threatened to fly from her hand, such was the inertia of the great door. Getting physical up in here. But mere inches from impact, she managed to bring the swinging slab to a halt. A few more slight, cautious pushes now, and a dull, resonant thud as the door met its frame, in a grand triumph of carpentry and architecture. The collision carried down the halls behind her in an echoey song. She let go of the doorknob then, only to realize that it would not move back on its own. And so she once again curled her hand around the studded brass sphere. One second, I'm going to reread that in my head. So she grabs the thing again, grabs the knob again, and its gravelly trek into position concluded by the sound of a door bolt returning to its nest, and feet tapping away into the distance. Okay, did she... Okay, I think I understand what happened. She opened a door and went in, and closed the door. Anyway, but it's an interesting exercise, I think. I did notice there's a lot of thens and nows throughout the whole thing, especially towards the end. There's a lot of this happened now, and this happened now, and this happened now. But for me, sometimes I use now. So like if I describe a ball rolling down a hill in one sentence, then I might say the ball reached a plateau now and slowed to a halt, that kind of thing. Because it's like a change in thing. I think what I'll do actually, instead of like editing the whole thing, is just pick out bits I like and like highlight them or something. So that's cool because it kind of sets up something about the world. Stretching the skin feels weird. I mean, it's like a bit horror-y. Around its axis sounds too like technical, because you wouldn't be thinking in those terms as this character. So she felt something click from the inside. She pushed. And then that would be a good time for a paragraph, because this is like changing what she's doing. She's not just turning the doorknob. I like the detail of a breeze, but probably not picking at the strands of her hair, because you can't feel your hair moving unless it's moving against your face. So maybe just feel the breeze. But I like that kind of gives a good sense of this giant door being moved and the air currents shifting around it. So I think what this is saying is swung past, gliding towards the awaiting doorway. So I found another key. They put this in the body of the thing, and the act of closing a door. So she's not opening a door at all. It's already open and she's closing it. That's why. But in the text, it's not clear that actually that's what's happening. Which should probably be an important thing, considering this is meant to be showing someone closing a door. Anyway. Okay, so she's like slowing it so that it doesn't slam. I feel like I would change that to be more about the weight of the door, because yeah, it's talking about changing to pull, but not actually why there's even any point doing that. So it should be more about the weight, maybe. And towards the doorway and threatening slam. Just straining against the weight of the massive door. That kind of thing. It talks about inertia, which is related to the mass of the door, but not in a very clear way. And then you can have your inches from impact averts disaster. But anyway, yeah, so the way I would go about this same exercise of making the mundane action of closing a door way too interesting than it's worth, sort of thing, I'd probably, instead of focusing on like the physicality of the action and having tons and tons of description of that, make it way more about the character and what the character is thinking and feeling about the situation of closing this door. So we've got that stuff like it's an old doorknob and it's all like rickety and stuff like that, and from the bygone age of coal and brass. So maybe this she's in a steampunk ship or something that is new and strange to her, and she's used to like wood ships that are like lower tech, I guess, than steampunk. And then that could be why she's noting that it's brass and stuff, and maybe the coal is she can smell the taint of coal in the air. That still works nicely, because it's like this stood out to me, I think, because it's what she would be feeling in this moment, and so it puts us in her shoes, which is cool. Yeah, and it talks about not wanting to make a sound by like easing back on the door so it doesn't slam. But why does she not want that to happen? What is she worried about happening? Maybe as she closes it, she starts to hear footsteps coming around the corner, so she like ducks behind a statue or something, a cog. And then it's more about her experience of closing this door and why it's important to the story or whatever. So that's probably how I'd go about that exercise, but it was pretty interesting. Thanks for watching. Yeah, if you want to like get in touch about writing matters, you can DM me here, and maybe you can, like, if you wish, you can send me a thing for me to give feedback on in one of these streams. Yeah, that's the end of that. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.